Muy buenos días. Good morning. Welcome to the third day of the GFRAS annual meeting here in Buenos Aires. Please take a seat. Por favor, tomen un asiento. Queremos iniciar este tercer día. Este tercer día, bueno, primero estoy seguro que lo pasaron bien ayer en las salidas del campo. So yesterday you had the field trip. I'm sure you had a good time, and then we had a very nice dinner yesterday evening. We will look back at the day of yesterday just briefly within the next 10-15 minutes. We will also come back to the different group works we had on Monday afternoon. I've been told yesterday that it's not a good idea to name the different sessions parallel sessions, because parallels they never join. So they were not parallel sessions, because we don't join yesterday. But concurrent sessions. Let us have a look again at the program of the day, please. The objectives of the meeting haven't changed since day one, and the program, you have a very detailed program in your folder, and we had a look at the overall program. So you see, we have gone through the first 2 days, and this morning we will start with a brief review of day 1 and 2. This means on the different sessions on Monday afternoon, we have asked rapporteurs to tell us their key insights, maybe open questions they want to share with the plenary. They'll do that after my introduction. We also asked rapporteurs to tell us their insights about the different field trips. That's just after the parallel session rapporteurs have told us their insights. That's how we would like to close this first part of the annual meeting, and we're looking at evidence and policies. It is a topic that we cannot discuss and agree on everything during a day or a day and a half. Outside of this room, you will find a panel, a pinboard style. It's like an open space. If you have questions, if you have comments, if there's something you feel you have not been able to share, please put it on that open space so we can either take it up at the closing panel today, or we have it with us for another meeting, and next meeting, the side meetings that then follow. We will put that outside. Any question, remark, you have something you want to make sure that it is written somewhere, put it on the pinboard that's outside of this room. So when you go into the coffee break, the pinboard will be there. Good. When we close the review of yesterday and the day before, we will start to look at the second main topic of the meeting. That's the partnership. That's the strengthening of the capacities also of our regional forums. How do we work in partnership with the different actors? We'll have 2 inputs. One input as an example here from Argentina on partnering with different actors in the agriculture innovation system. And then Christine Davis will give us a very brief insight in how GFRAS understands partnering and partnerships. Then we will divide into 7 groups. And how we will divide into 7 groups, I will tell you when it comes to that this morning. We'll have 2 group works. The first one in 7 groups, depending on the region you work in, and the second group is mixing all the regions again. That's the main aim of the global meeting here. Having time for the regions to reflect, but then also to bring it together with all the regions. It's going to be a busy morning, a lot of discussions, a lot within smaller groups. And then the afternoon we have a wrap-up and a closing. Wrap-up means we have a panel session, and I announced it at the first day. It's a semi-open panel session. This means we have some people invited to give us their feedback on what they learned, what they take home from this meeting, and we will have at least 2 or 3 chairs empty. This means that anybody can get up the chair and give his thoughts, reflection on the meeting, or what he or she will like to take home, or still open question the person thinks should be addressed by GFRAS or by regional networks within next month or years. That's how we will close, and of course we will gonna have an official closing panel as well. Do you have any questions regarding the organization, the agenda of today. If not, I have one logistical announcement, and then I'll give my colleagues, Iris, and who will be facilitating this first review of yesterday. The logistical announcement is the headphones you use here for translation to the hotel. There's no need to take them to your room or even take home. There are some missing from day one to bring them back, and also today there's no use for this hotel. Just leave them in the room when you leave today. Okay? Good. Then I'd like to invite Maria Isabel and Iris to guide us through the review session of day 1 and day 2. Thank you.
Buenos días. Quisiera los reporteros de las sesiones del campo y de la sesión del martes.
Sí, quisiéramos invitar a todas las personas, los reporteros, los rapporteurs, tanto para como para la salida al campo. ¿Dónde están? Merci. Simplice. Vengan aquí, por favor, adelante. Mucho espacio. Samson. Katie. So please go. ¿Quién quiere ser reportero ayer o antes de ayer? Next. You too. I don't know where is Mercy. Patrice was second.
But she said merci.
Right. She did say merci, right? She was yes.
So is that no sense?
Also, Fulton, he's there.
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Max.
Yes, oh, the young man is giving his seat.
Because I'm tall enough to see.
Hi. So, who was a reporter for the parallel session of Evidence and Practice for Rural Advisory Services on Tuesday? I know that you were a reporter, right?
Yes.
Who was? Matt. Okay, good. So the first part will be addressing you. Later we will continue with the field trip reporters. I want to ask you, which was the highlight, el punto principal, the main lesson you gathered during that session? Home. Idea what else is important?
And please could you say also your name and country? So
yes, my name is Mohamed Aslan. I'm from Egypt. The first the lesson we got from this that the experience on policy is very, very limited. More than that, the issue is still controversial. There are lots of discussions need to go on until we reach to a common understanding on what we are heading at. Next, can you continue?
From my perspective, first of all, in the group where I was, people came with open-minded ideas. They were not constrained to think within the box. The discussions were very lively. People had very huge arguments. There was a lot of experience shared, and at the end of the day, people believed that a policy, yes, is good to be based on evidence, but this evidence must then be contextualized so that it is not copy and paste. And that was very grateful for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, thank you. I will try to sum up of the most interesting key point that was discussed in the second panel session towards evidence for policymakers. But before, let me thank first to all the participants, panelists, minute taker, moderator, in the group that they generated discussion in a very passionate and energetic. So the first point, straight to the 3 points. The first is the evidence for policymakers should be built and developed with the context scenario of political economic interest. Because often, even come up with the best evidence, it is not enough to fit or interact the policymaker in terms of their interest. It is also important to set up strategy to lobby and advocacy in a collective action. The second thing, the process of gathering evidence for policymaker need to be promoted in a partnership manner, because it is always open for different interpretation or perspective of the evidence, so that it is important to involve policymaker itself in the process to make it more likely that it will be used. And this is take for example from Brazil, Uruguay, Argentina, and also India. The third is evidence for policymakers need to be systematized, like what we talk about to how to ensure the best fit methodology to gather evidence itself, precise, update, inclusive, issue but territory, set up indicator, etc. And an international and regional comparison will be added credibility and strong learning. So, thank you. Muchas gracias. Maybe my colleague will.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Just a little to add to what my colleague has said. From what you would have heard, there always seems to be some conflict between politicians and the people. And this was endorsed yesterday, confirmed at our field trip, where we were told that by the farmers that they're not in agreement with some of the policies that the government has in place. Although they would like to have that change, there are some challenges there, and for the moment they are allowing the status quo to remain the same, but that doesn't mean that the conflict does not exist. So hopefully over a period of time that can be resolved, and the policies will come in line with what the people need, and that will lead to a more harmonized relations between the policy makers and the people. Thank you.
I'm Vaishnav from India. Actually, what we could gather from the discussion in our session that was on influencing policies.
Sorry, could you please say your name?
Mahesh Chandra from India. So what we could gather from the discussion in our session on influencing policy, it is a kind of a situation where we have to identify the window of opportunity. Where is opportunity? What are the gray areas where we can make interventions? So for influencing policy, it is very important that we should have very good communication strategy. And then politicians, because they are the people who make policies. So if we are approaching politicians, they don't need bulk of data and very big statements. Just a crisp note, small note is good enough for them, and show them where action is happening. If you have done something, you show them. Seeing is believing. So they want to see it, and they want to be convinced. A small note that is good enough, and our communication strategy matters much. So that we have to take into account these elements in order to influence the policy in any country. So we came across some of the, we do have some good example. Say, for example, farmer-field schools in Rwanda. So that is a very success story. And what made it a success story, it is well documented, and anybody can see it. Rwanda Agriculture Board with the Belgian development, and they are working on, and FFS is doing very well there. Likewise, another case is of Benin pesticide law. There was opportunity there. The plant production law was not there in Benin. Somebody found out that this law is not there. This law is needed, and they came in, and then they suggested to the government, this can be done like this. The government requested, yes, well, help us in drafting the law. They could do it, and then now law came into being. This is how the policies can be influenced. Thank you very much.
My name is Anne. I'm from Ghana. Just to add 2 more points to what my colleague just said. In our discussion, we agreed that policy influence is just the first step in policy, when we are talking about policy. But the next thing is the need for adequate funding, and then the political will to implement policy. That is key. And then the second thing I want to reflect on also from Rwanda is the fact that as development partners at times, the money is given for policy to be developed, but there's a need not to hold on to what has been developed, but also let go on the efforts we make in developing policy, so that governments and all actors who own the process, and that helps in sustaining the implementation of the policy as well. Thanks.
Bueno, ahora invito a las personas, a los reporteros del filtro, de los 4 filtros. Les pido también que por favor dice el nombre y el país, y también en qué salida del campo a dónde se fueron. Y como la cosa más importante que se van a llevar a sus casas, lo más importante que quieren destacar aquí de las salidas, por favor, merci.
Thank you very much, Iris. I don't understand what you just said. I'm trying to follow. You want us to give the highlights and the major points? No, don't worry. I think I can get it.
You have also your
yes, I have it, but I refuse to use it. Yeah, yesterday we were in group 1, and we visited a family farming group. We went to the field and then came to the research center, Inter, where we met other groups. We learned a lot, and I just want to summarize. The first lesson is that family farming is very important and can help to feed a nation. We were told yesterday that 75% of food consumed in Argentina comes from family farming. I think it's very important. And then we saw that agroecology is not just in words. If they are practicing and it's working out, we see results. Microcredits directly to farmers, not through the bank, at low interest rates, it's very good and can catalyze growth in agriculture. We saw a group yesterday that got about $300, and they are paying back within a year. And according to them, they got it directly at 6% interest rates. Multidisciplinary approach to providing an advisory service to farmers, I think is very important and it's working. Yesterday we saw an animal scientist and then an agronomist working, they are extension agent officers and they are working with farmers. Interest of farmers matters. If they don't have interest in what they are doing, it is very difficult to carry them along. So yesterday we saw a group of farmers and they believe that they have to produce quality food for this country. Though they sell at farm gate price, but they have opportunities of selling higher than that, but they want it affordable to everyone. So their interest is very important, and institutional networking are very essential. Yesterday also, we saw that farmers can be very good researchers. We asked questions and they told us that most of them, they have education. There is no illiterate amongst them. Some from primary school to university, various degrees, but they are good researchers working on their field. The level of education has helped them. At the same time, they are interested in what they are doing and they are solving problems together with researchers and extension officers. We also saw that the structure of INTA, that's the research station, that is working together, researchers, agricultural extension, is very important. It's a great potential for Argentina to have such a body and then the structure within. And I think they are beginning to see the need to also go out, that is to work with other countries and other partners. A free venture can also exist between farmers. We saw a case of a senior farmer that has experience collaborating with 3 other farmers, very young farmers, on his plot. He had 10 hectares, and they are all working together, to achieve something. I think, though they are still testing it, then we saw, a huge amount of success there already. There is no legal document binding them. There is just shared understanding. But I think they are working together very well. We also saw that how to produce without pesticides, because in where we are, there is a law that within a particular radar or whatever, you cannot produce with pesticides. So we saw these farmers producing without pesticides, and then they use a lot of intercropping to manage weeds and also to improve the fertility of the soil. We learned a lot yesterday, and we feel that we are taking this home to help our farmers in our various countries, and also to implement with the various groups that we work with. But we feel that for the past 5 years, GFRAS has been coming every year having annual meetings. But I think it's time that we start to take implementing some of these decisions, implementing some of this knowledge that we have acquired is very important. And I think that is very important to GFRAS now. So organizing this meeting on a yearly basis, because before we finish this one, GFRAS is thinking of organizing another meeting. So we feel maybe once in 2 years, this will help us to go back home and do something and then probably report back to GFRAS. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. I would invite now to Samson. You were in field trip too, isn't it? Please say your name and present.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm representing field trip 2. So the place where we went to, the vegetable producers, the name called 1610. They are like 20 members. So they are producing vegetables. They have they are managing common demonstration plots. They are getting support from INTA. But the good lesson that we learned from this site is that the groups themselves, they came together not by INTA, but the groups themselves, they initiated themselves. So that is a good lesson. And instead of top down, so the groups themselves, they come together. So that group, definitely it's a step. So the other lesson that we learned from this group is they are producing vegetables and they are selling directly to the consumers. So they are avoiding the middleman. So it has positive implication for both for producers, they are getting good price. And also for consumers, they are getting produce in less price. So that is a good lesson. But we felt that there is no strong farmers organization. So one of the recommendation given by the participant is to have a strong farmers organization so that farmers' voice can be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Samson. Katie, what was your highlight?
Hi, I am representing field trip number 3. I was on 3. We went to Lejan. We went to the Instituto Nacional de Agropecuaria, I think. It was the National Agriculture Institute. So there were a lot of students milling about, and we got to hear a presentation about INTA and about some of the farmers in the farmer organization, where we actually got to visit one of these farms. It's a smaller farm, I guess, for the area, but to me it seemed big. There were a lot of cows, which was great. And Hannibal, I think his name is Hannibal. Is it Hannibal? He was the farmer who received us, and he works with his family on this farm. He's the head of the Farmers Association, actually, and he had great insight into how the farmers are working together to share some of the inputs like seeds and machinery and some of the goals for production. And he said that that is helping a lot in the challenges they meet financially as a farmers association. So for our group as extensionists, it was really encouraging to see farmers who are trying to work together to improve their livelihoods so that they can, just compete a bit better with the bigger corporations.
Thanks a lot, Katie. So simply said, we were in field trip 4.
Thank you. Bonjour tout le monde. Mon nom est Boudoukay Davos Simplice. Je suis du Bénin, but I will try to report in English. Okay, we went to field 4, and there we met the people working in that area, farmers, and also people from the INTA. And the main thing we got was that there was a good linkage between research, extension, and farmers, and this helped to innovate and to apply the technology elaborated. And this is very important for us, and we think that it is very unique that you have research and extension in the same institution, and this is working very well. And also, they have experimentation in farmer field, and farmers they have not 10 hectares, but the minimum is 100 hectares. And it's important that when they ask what is the farm size of a small farmer, they said about 100. And I told them that in my country it is 1 hectare. So there is a very big difference. And the experience from a professor is very important. They are promoting volunteer to advise family farming, and this is very important. How to promote it, and this may be one lesson we bring home to see what we can do with that. And from the field, we think that there are some recommendations we need to make. One of them is that why not to do some assessment of approaches, methods in the different countries instead of doing it globally. It will help to learn a lot from what is going on in the world. And we think that some lesson is that it is necessary to develop a close and sincere rapport with the producers to facilitate a two-way communication process with them. This mechanism in turn will assist extensionists in providing appropriate and effective services. And with respect to the influence of farmers to policy, we found that when we look at the organigram, that farmers are represented in all the levels, at the national level and at the regional level. And this is very, very important. But we could not access how the presence is at that level influence the policy. We just know that they are there, and this is already important. And we came out that private, that instead give free extension advice to large farmers, but for the small farmers, no, that large farmers they pay some taxes, while small farmers they get subsidies. And these are the main points I can during this part. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for everybody. So, yeah, we invite Daniel now to continue.
Thank you very much. Thank you again. Thank you very much to all the rapporteurs briefing about the different sessions. We did have minute takers in all the different sessions. So everything, we think everything, or at least most of the elements that you have been discussing, that you have been writing down, etc., these are in the minutes. So we will be using them for the report. We asked the rapporteurs to concentrate on one or two key elements. There is the pinboard ready for the open space, so if you have any question, remark, you would like to let us know, we would like to share with others, use the time during the break, the coffee break, or during the lunch break to make sure that you use that space if needed. Good. We need to make a little switch. For me, it's a switch in the topic, because we're going to be looking at partnerships. What does partnerships mean for us as networks? Networks per se is a relation of partners within a group. probably with a common goal, but with different interests. But an interest that is strong enough to go to a group, to a network, to invest its time into a network because we want to get something out. And I think that's true with any other partnership level that we want to be looking at today. People who bring something into a relationship usually expect also to take something. In order to start to discuss what does partnership mean for a network, what does partnership mean with different actors, and we're going to be looking at the policymakers again as one level of partnership with of networks with policymakers. We had planned 2 inputs. We're going to have 2 inputs, but unfortunately our friend from West Africa couldn't join. So her name is on the program, but she won't be here today. So we will have 2 presentations right now. They're going to be very short. Don't worry, because we still would like to have you fresh and motivated and full of ideas, then to go into the different group works. We have a first input from Erika. It's a specific example out of many examples that were sent to us on a partnership here, or an experience on partnerships here in Argentina. The second input will be provided by Kristin Davis, who looks at the importance of partnerships for GFRAS as a global forum. 2 very brief inputs, and then we're going to be dividing so that you can tell us your stories, your experiences, and place your question when it comes to partnerships. I'd like to invite Erika. Thank you very much. I will ask you to introduce yourself and then start with the presentation. Thank you.
Yes. We haven't done any changes.
Bueno, buenos días. Buenos días. Nosotros desde el INTA hemos presentado este trabajo porque nos parece que es una oportunidad de cooperar con gente de otros países, desde nuestra institución, y también para mostrarles cómo también nosotros nos miramos, nos evaluamos y tratamos de generar evidencias, tratamos de generar información para los decisores tanto de nuestra institución como del gobierno nacional. Además que nuestro exdirector hoy es el ministro, y creo que esa es una forma en que incidimos concretamente en las políticas, ¿no? Presentamos una experiencia que se trata de una evaluación conjunta de proyectos con enfoque territorial, que es una nueva forma de mirar y de hacer que tiene el INTA, y creemos que es una forma de construir redes de cooperación. Esta es un trabajo que se hizo conjuntamente con, bueno, ahí está el tema, ¿no? Y en el que nosotros nos presentamos. Y la experiencia concreta, como les decía, es una evaluación conjunta de resultados y de gestión de 2 carteras, decimos nosotros, de nuestro instrumento de programación, que son los proyectos regionales 2006 y 2009, desarrolladas en el ámbito del Centro Regional Tucumán-Santiago del Estero en el INTA. El Centro Regional Tucumán-Santiago del Estero, se lo ve en ese mapa, está con el círculo verde clarito, no sé si lo ven. Ese es un mapa que tiene todas las unidades del INTA, que las agencias están con color rojo, algunos lo han visto ayer, y el mapa que está a mi izquierda es el mapa de nuestro centro regional, donde cada color representa un espacio geográfico donde se desarrolla el proyecto regional, y ahí están los 6 que fueron evaluados. Decimos que esta es una evaluación conjunta porque los que participamos fuimos organismos que dependemos de 2 ministerios distintos, 2 ministerios nuevos en la República Argentina. Uno es el Ministerio de Ciencia, Tecnología e Innovación Productiva, concretamente con la Subsecretaría de Evaluación Institucional, que tiene mucha experiencia en evaluación, pero no había hecho evaluaciones del tipo de la que nosotros le pedimos, y el Ministerio de Agricultura, Ganadería y Pesca. Dentro de ella, el INTA tiene una Dirección Nacional Asistente de Planificación, y también la dirección del Centro Regional Tucumán-Santiago, que también tiene un área de planificación y seguimiento. Acá además está nuestra directora. Digo, fue una decisión del centro, porque la modalidad organizativa del INTA, los centros tienen autonomía y fue quien solicitó de alguna manera la evaluación al ministerio. Los objetivos que nos planteamos fueron analizar el modelo de gestión y los resultados de estas carteras de proyectos con enfoque territorial en el centro regional. Y lo que hicimos, buscamos concretamente, fue identificar buenas prácticas, fortalezas, oportunidades, debilidades y amenazas de este modelo de gestión, que lo que implicaba era trascender por ahí la dicotomía que a veces hay entre investigación y extensión a partir de la gestión de la innovación para el desarrollo territorial, y eso implicaba poner en nuestros técnicos un objetivo común que tenía que ver con promover o mirar los problemas, planificar a partir de los problemas identificados participativamente con distintos tipos de productores y distintos tipos de organizaciones en distintos lugares en los que estamos, y a partir de ahí construir los proyectos regionales y enfocar toda su investigación o su actividad de extensión. Y lo pensamos en términos de buenas prácticas porque era un proceso que pretendíamos que se replicara en el resto del INTA. Y a partir de ahí también identificar los principales logros y resultados alcanzados durante ese periodo. Creemos que, bueno, nosotros a partir de los aprendizajes que realizamos, fue un trabajo que duró casi un año. Creemos que lo que nos permitió este trabajo y lo que este tipo de trabajo entre dos organismos públicos puede promover o puede aportar a una red, y también puede ser esta red entre países, entre organizaciones, entre organismos, y también, ¿por qué no, público-privada? Tiene que ver con una autonomía conceptual en el planteo del marco y la metodología de la evaluación. Esto era algo que Argentina por mucho tiempo había perdido, ¿no? Entonces, para nosotros poder pensar conceptualmente qué era lo que queríamos evaluar y cómo lo queríamos hacer fue importante. Pudimos articular recursos públicos en una acción concreta de manera integral, es decir, cada organismo participó con su propio presupuesto y asumió los costos de sus propios equipos, pero en una acción coordinada. Y eso nos permitió, además, en un Estado que hoy destina recursos para estas cosas, tener autonomía operativa de los equipos técnicos interinstitucionales. El equipo del Ministerio y parte del equipo del INTA tienen sede acá en Buenos Aires, entonces imagínense que desplazarse a más de 1000 kilómetros y realizar ahí tarea de campo era un costo no menor. Se hicieron, parte del requisito que nosotros pusimos es que el equipo conociera en terreno todas nuestras actividades, y eso tuvo un desafío logístico y un desafío operativo. Hubo reuniones con productores, reuniones con técnicos, reuniones con organizaciones, reuniones con cortejeros, entrevistas, talleres. Y la autonomía operativa fue una cosa no menor. Se diseñaron procedimientos y técnicas que sirvieron para cada organismo, que tienen su propia metodología. Nos permitió además aumentar la densidad y la calidad de las vinculaciones entre diversos organismos públicos nacionales, articulando gran diversidad de niveles territoriales, nacional, provincial y local, y sectoriales, porque era educación y agricultura, generando un capital institucional que en un país heterogéneo como el nuestro y que viene de épocas de fragmentación no era menor, y lo sintetizamos en esto de ser unos en la diversidad. Nos permitió sinergizar a la vez de focalizar recursos materiales y económicos que estaban disponibles en cada estructura estatal, y eso permitió mayor eficacia y eficiencia en el uso de los fondos públicos. Nos permitió, o fue posible, la puesta en valor y la circulación de conocimientos tácitos y prácticas institucionales probadas y de perfiles y trayectorias laborales heterogéneas, generando capital intelectual. Otra particularidad que tuvo esta evaluación fue que el equipo del Ministerio eran la mayoría sociólogos, trabajadores sociales, economistas, politólogos, y tradicionalmente los que venimos de agronomía, la mayoría somos ingenieros agrónomos, veterinarios. Iris también fue parte del equipo de evaluación, y entonces esa heterogeneidad de disciplinas, esa mirada multidisciplinar también fue importante. Nos permitió una oportunidad de institucionalizar estos vínculos. Había muchas relaciones de confianza anteriores, pero no había habido una relación formal. Esto se hizo con un convenio, con un acta, con toda una serie de cosas, que hay una serie de desafíos también para trabajar adentro del Estado, como con las organizaciones. Nos permitió constituir un ámbito formal que nos permite intercambiar y debatir a la vez de ejercitar la naturaleza compleja del accionar público y sus políticas de ciencia, tecnología e innovación, y acá nos proponemos revisar todo lo que hace el Estado en su actuación en cuanto a políticas públicas, y la generación y la puesta en juego tanto de momentos de reflexión colectiva como generación de nuevos conceptos aplicables a nuevas realidades generadas por la propia intervención. Es un proceso de cambio no solo para nosotros como organización, sino también para las organizaciones que tenemos, y no fue concebido solo como un espacio de recabar información a través de entrevistas o encuestas, sino que hubo varios momentos que fueron de reflexión y de creación como un equipo grande, nos permitió todas estas cosas que nosotros creemos importantes. El documento que generamos es bastante importante, tiene algunas cosas que son de evidencia. Nosotros nos presentamos acá los resultados porque nos parecía que no era eso lo que queríamos mostrar, pero que estará a disposición. Después, institucionalmente no ha sido presentado en público todavía a nivel de la institución, pero creemos que tiene además avances en esto que por ahí venía preocupando en estos días, que era esto de cómo generó evidencias, cuáles son los datos, ¿no? Y muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Erika. Exacto. Yo espero que la presión en el tiempo que siempre demos a la gente no influye mucho el trabajo de los traductoras y traductores, que yo creo que son un cierto tiempo por el speed que tenemos, ¿no? If we talk very quickly, then we also have to think about translations that are here. So it was an example that we had talking about evidence-based that we can use for influencing policies. So this is also on cooperation on different partnerships. So that brings me to the link to the. Before I give the floor to Christian, to invite all of you, I'd like to ask all the investigators, the extensionists, the teachers, the networkers, the national donor community. I hope I didn't forget. And here where you will be filmed. It's gonna be last night. It's a short exercise. You will not be sweating. I would like to ask you to point with your right hand to the roof, and then look at the finger and start turning clockwise. That was the old clocks before they were clockwise. So you look at your finger and you turn clockwise. Keep looking at your finger and slowly you bring down your arm until you are in front of your belly button. And you look at your finger again. Does it go clockwise? No. I didn't ask you to change. So do it again? And Lawrence is filming. Okay. Go clockwise, look at your finger. Don't change. And bring it down. It's anti-clockwise. If you do it the way I explained, it's anti-clockwise. Why is that? You can yell at me and I will.
You're a magician.
I'm a magician. You were hypnotized this morning. No, that's not the reason. Sorry? Yeah, it's the angle, it's the perspective. It depends on the perspective, because the finger always goes, your arm turns the same way. But it depends from what way you look at it. Changing the perspective. Imagine how long you could discuss with somebody in this room if it goes clockwise or counterclockwise, because both are right. It really depends on where you look at. Both are correct. You could discuss for hours, and you will probably just get angry, or go and have a beer. That's it. That's it. Imagine now when it comes to partnerships, it's always at least two people, or two networks, at least two. They have different ideas, different intentions, and a different perspective. I think I will not tell you what to do in partnerships. You are all engaged in partnerships, but we have to keep in mind, depending on the perspective, they see the same thing in a different light, or going counterclockwise or clockwise. It's my short introduction to partnerships. Please have a seat. I'd like to invite Christoph to give us a brief insight on partnerships from the view of GFRAS.
Gracias. Francisco presented the GFRAS vision and mission on Tuesday. There's no way that GFRAS can achieve that vision and mission without partners. We need partners like the KayakNet, like FAO, like many others that we could mention. If you remember from Tuesday, our third objective of this meeting was to strengthen the GFRAS Fora's capacity to engage in partnerships between and amongst regions, with policymakers, with financial partners, and with other actors in the innovation system. And when we're talking about these fora, we are talking about the regional fora like RELASER, but also other fora like the GFRAS Consortium, the RELASER Universities Group, and so forth. Just a brief introduction to different types of partnerships that we're thinking about. We have this South-South exchange collaboration that we've seen a lot of over the past 5 years at GFRAS. Partnerships between and amongst regions. But what are the mechanisms for this South-South exchange? What are the incentives? Why should we partner with Argentina, with RELASER, with KayakNet or PIRAS? So we want to look at how synergies can be identified in a way that responds to all the demands of the involved actors. How can we create ownership and reliability in our partnerships between the regions? We all have scarce resources, and how can we manage them in an efficient way to meet the goals of all the partnerships? How can we achieve the principle of subsidiarity in partners? We have, in Africa region, we have OPAS at continental level and RESCAR AOC at the West and Central Africa region. Within Asia, we have many different sub-networks. So that's some of the issues with regard to partnerships between regions. Partnerships with policymakers. What do policymakers and RAS Fora expect from a joint partnership? How can we attract partnerships from the policy-making sector? And what is the value of our fora within the policy process interests? How can we make partnerships with policymakers and be aligned across activities? For instance, if we're going to work on ICTs, how can we then take that learning and use it to advocate for more resources for using ICTs in extension? Financial partnerships, we're talking about donors, but we're also talking about in-kind contributions from other net partners. What are the incentives for financial partners to engage with our fora? How can there be mutual ownership? We both have goals, the donor or the co-contributor in our forum. So how can we achieve these together? What are efficient mechanisms for partnerships between the fora and the financial actors? And then, just more broadly, other actors within the agricultural innovation system. The farmers, the private sector, whom we saw is not well represented here, even processors and transporters, the research, the civil society, and many others. What are the types of partnerships we can have within the broader innovation system? And how can these exchanges further the work of extension and advisory services? So what we are expecting out of this session is that at the tables within our group discussions, that we will elaborate recommendations to the regional fora and to GFRAS on how to better partner. We want to elaborate potential partners with whom we can engage. We want to understand which regions have strong partnerships with one of these types of partners and how can another region learn from them. Out of that, we hope that GFRAS can proactively strengthen the partnerships where we're weak. So Daniel, back to you.
Thank you very much, Christian, for this introduction into, and can you go back to the presentation you just had? Thank you very much, Christian. So, let's go again. These are the 4 partnership types identified by GFRAS, which they think they're sure of. We have to look at these partnership types. There were a series of different questions for each one of these partnerships. How could we, when, with whom, so that we have better partnerships between and amongst regions. Partnerships with policymakers, with financial partnerships, and with other actors in the agriculture innovation systems. These questions are true for GFRAS as a global network. Have to define good ways on how to engage with other people, with other networks, with other partners, and then also to how, why to engage with them and what do we take out of these partnerships. The same questions, the same levels, the same types are true for the regional networks. The African network, the Latin American network, the Asian network, etc. So what we would like to do is invite you to go into your regional network. Now we should change to the regional network slide. It will come up. So, it will come up. Oops. And go into these 4 main questions, these 4 levels, to produce what Christian just told you. I take an example as for agricultural advice. When you sit together, you can discuss how you have 45 minutes at least to look in each network. How are we doing? What's our experience in these partnerships? And we have a coffee break, and we will split up into new groups. All the regions will be, it's not going to be a regional grouping, it's going to be a topic-wise grouping. So we have the 4 levels, the 4 types that presented Christian, will be divided into different rooms, and we bring back together all the regions. So if AFAS has discussed very good experience in partnering with the financial partners, but the Latin American maybe discussed that they have difficulties or do have difficulties partnering with the financial sectors, then that's the moment to exchange, to tell each other what we did, how we did, why did it work, so we can then come at the end to maybe some recommendations out of these 4 levels. But the first group work before coffee break is going to be organized in the way you see on these panels. We have a group of AFAS. It's going to be led by Max Olupont and Jeff Montigo. They will stay here in Olympus, on this side. They will coordinate with RESCAR, which is a French-speaking network within Africa, and how to organize. It's going to be their decision if they want to have French-English mixed or have 2 discussions. Then we have APIRAS and PIRAS. Then we go to the Pacific and Asian networks. They will be working in Aphrodite together with Cairo. You see the names of the facilitators, they will brief, they have the questions with them, they will be able to lead you through the discussion. Relacer is going to be staying here in Olympus 1. When I say stay here, this means that this is a wall going to be put in within the next 3 minutes. And so the Spanish-speaking people will be here, and the other groups will be here. We have 2 more networks. One is GFRAS. GFRAS Linde will coordinate that group. Upstairs in the group NINFAS, and the GFRAS group. We said GFRAS/international. I think that's just the GFRAS group. And Frederick Overture will coordinate leads that group. I think the key question now is anybody not sure in which network he or she should participate? Ask now. Because on the first day, when we presented all the networks, we did miss one colleague from Egypt. So that's the MENA region and the Middle East region. We didn't present the Middle East region. But we would ask him to go to the group he feels most attracted to. Because I think one person is not a group here. Good. Coffee break will be after this group work. So please make sure you go to the group where your network is working in. You have the name of the facilitators. These will be the people who will be orienting you. At 11:15, there's going to be a coffee break ready, and after 11:15, after the coffee break, we will have prepared new rules. And we have the last slide. Partnerships between and amongst regions will be here in Olympus 2, which is on this side. Partnerships with policymakers will be on the other side. Partnerships with partnering with Agriculture Innovation System and financial partnerships will be upstairs. We will show you this again. It's going to be on the doors. So first you go to the regional network, and after the coffee break, you're free to choose the topic you want. Almost all of you will be free to choose what you want. There's about 28 of you who are not free to choose what you want. But your regional leaders will tell you. Okay. Thank you very much. Enjoy group work. I'm looking forward to meeting you back here just before lunch.